A kind-hearted widow with an infant daughter adopts an orphan when their ship crew sees him as the sole survivor of a floating rowboat. However, after being cast off the diseased ship, they find themselves stranded on an island. To ensure their survival, Sarah must teach the children the ways of the civilized world until help can arrive. In the year 1897, a huge ship comes upon a tiny boat that had been drifting aimlessly for days. As the crew investigates, they see the young couple, Richard and Emmeline, lying lifeless on the rowboat. Fortunately, their son, originally named Paddy, turns out to be alive. One of the ship's passengers, Sarah Hargrave, who is a widow with an infant daughter named Lily, volunteers to take care of the orphaned boy, whom she later names Richard, to give them a proper funeral. The whole ship gathers to pray for the deceased couple before they are thrown to the ocean. Richard, at that time, doesn't understand what's happening and gazes worryingly at Sarah. Suddenly, Mr. Penfield reports to the captain that some of the crew have symptoms of cholera. To save Sarah and the kids, the captain is left with no choice but to cast them adrift along with Kearney, whom he believes will take care of them. At first, Sarah disagrees upon hearing the decision, but she eventually complies after realizing that staying aboard a cholera-infected ship will cost her and the kids' lives. The following morning, Sarah, the two children, and Kearney are sailing in the middle of the ocean aboard a small boat. When Sarah asks for water for the kids, Kearney dismisses her, noting that it's practical to save their resources, adding that if he were the only one left, he'd have more drinking water to live on. However, the dehydrated kids start to cry, which eventually irritates Kearney. As Kearney gets annoyed, he takes Richard and attempts to throw him off the boat, but Sarah then hits him with a harpoon multiple times before throwing his lifeless body into the ocean. Days later, Sarah and the children hang tight as huge waves push them toward the shore of a beautiful, uncharted island. When they reach the beach, Sarah takes the children out of the boat and cries in sweet relief. In the following days, Sarah tries her best to survive with the two children. She learns to hunt for food and fetch fresh water. As Sarah is getting food, a miniature boat distracts Richard. However, they immediately seek shelter when a storm comes. The next morning, Sarah decides to find a safe place because she feels like they are on the exposed side of the island. As they explore the area, Sarah finds herself on another part of the island, which Richard seems to be familiar with. Soon, Richard leads them to a bamboo house where he used to live with his parents. When he realizes that his mother is gone, Sarah quickly comforts him and promises to be his second mom. Before hunting for dinner, Sarah gathers a pile of wood and plans to light a signal fire so they can be seen by a passing ship. That night, Sarah is kissing the children goodnight when she hears a loud drumming from a distance. She realizes it's coming from a tribe that resides in another part of the island. The next day, Sarah continues to teach the two kids basic table manners. When she realizes that it's a full moon, she deduces that the tribesmen come every 3 months when the moon is full. She quickly puts the children to bed and sings them to sleep so as not to attract the locals' attention. 8 years later, Lily and Richard have gotten older, having fun as they get accustomed to island life. As they bathe, Lily gets curious about why Sarah has her clothes on, but her mother mentions how she's given up clothing them because they always take them off anyway. When Lily starts to be curious about the human body, Sarah teaches her what differentiates females from males. Later at home, Sarah shares the principle of marriage in the Bible and informs them about the changes that will happen to their bodies when they reach adolescence. Moments later, Lily inquires about having a baby, which also makes Richard curious. After a vague explanation from Sarah, he remembers how they saw iguanas performing an act by being close together and assumes that it's the same for people. Later, as Lily and Richard venture out to sea, they stop by a reef where they can fish. As they catch fish, they are unaware that their boat is slowly drifting away from them. Suddenly, a shark breaks Richard's spear, which prompts him to angrily throw rocks at it. Without their boat, the two children are frightened when the shark starts to approach them. As the sun begins to set, Lily and Richard are still stuck in the middle of the water, unable to escape the shark. Richard then devises a plan to distract it with the fish they caught. As the shark eats the fish, Lily and Richard take the chance to swim back to their boat. When the shark sees this, it attempts to chase them, but the children are able to get back on the boat just in time. The kids row back to the island, where a worried Sarah meets them on the shore. She reminds them of her 2 rules. They should be home before sunset, and they should never go to the north side of the island. They then rush home quickly because it's a full moon, meaning the tribes will be passing by soon. The following stormy day, Sarah teaches the children to sing when the heavy rain breaks their roof. To seal the hole, Sarah uses thatched palm leaves. However, her long exposure to the rain and the cold causes causes her to contract pneumonia. As her condition worsens, Sarah spends her final moments with the children and promises that she will watch over them when she's gone. She then teaches them to prepare her grave in an area overlooking the ocean. After Sarah takes her last breath, Lily and Richard do as they are instructed. They place a carved epitaph and flowers on her grave and recite a prayer to pay their respects. Left to fend for themselves, Richard and Lily take Sarah's reminders to heart, and as the years pass, they grow into strong teenagers. As their bodies mature, they start to get physically attracted to each other. One morning, Richard approaches Lily, who is busy preparing breakfast, and reminds her of their Easter egg hunting game. Though Lily is already uninterested, Richard mentions that their late mother wanted them to continue the tradition. As they paint the Easter eggs, Richard motivates Lily by telling her that whoever finds the most eggs wins a prize. After their game, Richard and Lily both have 9 eggs, but Richard intentionally hides one egg so that Lily can win. When Lily asks for her prize, Richard takes her out to sea, and he dives to fetch her a pearl. Fascinated by the sparkling white bead, Lily later uses it as a hair accessory. Later, Richard goes to the sea to challenge the shark to a swimming race. When he wins against the shark, he calls himself the master of the reef. When he gets home, the proud Richard shares his achievement with Lily, who thinks that his race against the shark is ridiculous and dangerous. As Lily teases Richard's silly venture, Richard comments on her vanity, which infuriates her. Before they get into a fight, Richard reminds her of the games they used to play, including Ring Around the Rosie, which they recreate. However, they fall on the sand with their bodies pressed against each other. Bothered by the feeling, Lily asks if she can move the bed to another part of the house, which Richard doesn't mind because he's thought of doing the same thing. The next morning, Lily wakes up with blood on the quilt, indicating her first period. At first, she panics and runs to the waterfall to wash her soiled clothes. But when she remembers what her mother told her, she realizes that she has become a woman. The following morning, Lily tries to wake Richard up so he can move her bed to the corner. As Lily gets him out of bed, she notices that something has changed about his body, indicating that he has also become a man. Later, a worried Lily confides to her mother's grave, unsure how to deal with the changes that are happening to her and Richard, who's been listening the entire time. When Lily sees Richard, she tells him to go away. They end up fighting, prompting Richard to run to the north side of the island, which their mother forbade them to enter when they were younger. As Richard wanders to the forbidden part of the island, he reaches a clearing where there are skulls and snakes. When he hears that the tribesmen are coming, he quickly covers himself in mud and lies down to hide. That night, Richard watches as the white-painted tribe members take part in a sacrificial ritual. As they carry torches, the tribe leader offers something to the big statue. When the event is over, Richard sees that someone is left behind to clean the statue. Richard takes the chance to go back to Lily, but the man catches him. As Richard takes a defensive stance holding a spear, the man just returns an awkward smile and then harmlessly runs past him. Before leaving the tribe's den, Richard notices some blood on the leaves, which relieves him because he believes he might have been killed if he was caught. Back on their beach, a worried Lily meets Richard upon his return. As Lily helps him wash off the mud, Richard shares what happened to him. Lily then swears not to fight again, and they end up passionately kissing each other. Realizing they have something pure and special, Richard and Lily decide to get married on Sarah's grave, exchanging vows and rings. For the following months, they live their lives happily as husband and wife until one morning, they spot a ship and a smaller boat nearing the island. They use a telescope and spot 8 people, one of whom is a woman. The couple welcomes the strangers ashore, who are led by Captain Jacob Hilliard. Their ship ran out of fresh water, and the captain asks permission from the couple for them to refill their stocks. Shortly after, the captain introduces his daughter, Sylvia Hilliard, who fancies Richard despite knowing that he's married to Lily. The couple takes the visitors to Sarah's grave and shares the knowledge they acquired from her. That evening, Lily cooks dinner for their guests. However, while Lily gives Quinlan his meal, the isolated seafarer gives her a creepy look and later notices that her hair accessory has an authentic pearl on it. The next morning, Captain Jacob and Sylvia give them proper clothes. As Richard figures out how to wear modern clothes, Sylvia shows Lily her makeup kit and jewelry and then suggests that she lighten her suntanned skin with lemon juice. Soon, the rest of the crew follows them ashore, and they all fill their barrels with fresh water from the waterfall. That evening, Sylvia introduces them to a dance called the Spanish polka. She teaches Richard first, and when they dance together, Lily feels extremely jealous. That evening, Lily confronts Richard for his thinly veiled fascination with Sylvia's different ways. To get her husband's attention, Lily uses Sylvia's makeup the next morning. Finding it ridiculous, Richard asks her to take it off and then leaves to teach Sylvia how to fish. As Sylvia tries to make a move on Richard, she invalidates his marriage to Lily, noting that it isn't official. Richard, who is loyal to his wife, turns his back on Sylvia's advances and leaves her on the boat. Meanwhile, after watching Lily bathing in the waterfall, Quinlan threatens her to give him the pearl, which is back in the hut. When Quinlan gets the precious gemstone, he attempts to take advantage of Lily, but Richard gets there just in time to stop him. Quinlan shoots at Richard but misses. When the rifle falls, Richards quickly grabs it, but because he doesn't know how to use it, Quinlan grabs it back and uses it to choke him out. The captain and his crew try to stop Quinlan, but he knocks down one of the crew members and chases the fleeing Richard into the sea. Determined, Quinlan tries to swim toward Richard, but the shark that resides in the reef ends up eating him. When Richard returns to the island, he tells Lily that the captain has ordered them to leave at first light. Lily, however, breaks the news that she is pregnant and would rather raise their child on the island, where there are no guns and no violence. Richard gives his blessing to the plan, and the ship sets sail without them. A few months later, Lily gives birth to a healthy child, and the family of 3 lives happily in their paradise. Thanks for watching our video. Subscribe for more recap video.